Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Beth. And today we're talking about the Viseart SIRENEUSE palette. So in this video, I'll be doing up-close swatches and comparison swatches, also a demo of the look I'm wearing now, as well as another kind of more office-friendly daytime look that I did. And obviously giving you my final thoughts and letting you know whether I think this palette is worth picking up. So given the theme of the palette, I did want to, I guess, film this when we were still in Pisces season, but unfortunately I just couldn't get to it, so happy belated birthday to all my Pisces viewers out there, but we are now firmly into spring and Aries season. But it did end up working out because normally this palette retails for $44. Viseart is currently running, I think they were like spring equinox sale, so they are offering, I think, 30% off. So that takes off a good $10 or so off the cost of this palette. So I talk a little bit more about that later on, but it might be a blessing in disguise that I didn't get to filming this palette until now. I did purchase this last fall when it launched. It actually sold out, which I think is fairly rare for a Viseart palette, and then they just finally restocked this in the last couple weeks. So again, I think the timing might have worked out for the best. But let's talk a little bit about kind of the inspiration for the palette, and then I'll go into the swatches and the demo, and of course there will be timestamps down below. So it says, inspired by the legends of the Night Sea and Poseidon's starlit kingdom, SIRENEUSE ETENDU VisiPro is your odyssey into oceanic crystalline enchantment. Embodying serene spring shore luxury and mythical majesty, SIRENEUSE beckons with glittering waves of aquatic allure and seascape majesty. Each shade is like a goddess born of the sea, shimmering in duochromatic moonlit opulence beneath spring's serene touch. Yeah, it's interesting that this launched in the fall when they're saying spring's serene touch, but I digress. This palette is a journey into mystical dreams where the obsidian glimmering depths of blues meets starlit beauty, melding Poseidon's myths with the enigma of Triton's gilded trident. The colors range from soft, sylph-like iridescence to deep, celestial, duochromatic hues, each one murmuring gently like a wave beneath the lune of the Siren, transporting you to a realm of serene seascape splendor. And yeah, then it says, mix and match with your petit fours, attendu, or grand pro to create your bespoke creations. And just before I hop into the swatches, I don't think I realized this at the time, but the one shade here that's called Sylph, they'd actually used that name in the Hesperides Petit Four. So that one is going to be, I think, this one down here, that shade. And the first shade in this palette is also called Sylph. I think they're just reusing the name. I don't think the shades themselves are the same. I think you can see it pretty clearly there, but I'll go ahead and swatch it. They don't feel the same. I mean, they're not like dissimilar, but they're not identical. Oh, there you go. I think Viseart is pretty good about telling you if a palette is a recreation of existing shades. So my husband interrupted me, so I forget what I was saying. But yeah, I really do appreciate the copywriters at Viseart. For some reason, that description gave me White Lotus vibes, which I don't think is what they intended, but it definitely evokes some of those kind of images. And you do get a pretty good shelf life on these. These are 36 month, and it is made in the US. So I think I forgot to mention that as well. So yeah, so that's going to do it for the intro. Again, I'll have timestamps down below because I think the swatch portion takes up a substantial amount of the video. And with all that being said, let's hop into those swatches. All right, so let's talk about this palette. So before I get into the actual swatches, I just want to talk a little bit about the packaging here. So this is one of their newer palettes, obviously, and they changed the packaging recently, and honestly, I'm not the biggest fan. So I'll show you what they used to look like in a minute, but basically they took away the mirror, and they have this like tear off piece of paper here that covers the shadows. And I think the idea here is that you can lift this part up and it forms like a little, yeah, if I can do it right, it forms a little easel like so. I don't know if makeup artists like having things at a 45-degree angle, for example. For me, it's not really that helpful. I can see how this would be very aesthetic on a desk or table, whatever, as a makeup artist is putting makeup on someone, but that's not really how I use palettes. So I will probably just keep this, I guess, like that and hold it as I'm using it, or just open like so. As you can tell, these pans are removable. So if I just take a little spatula, and I think they are making more of these pans available for purchase separately, which is nice. And there isn't anything on the back, which is kind of one of my pet peeves, but you can always just write what the shades are on the back with a Sharpie. So I don't know, I'm just not totally in love. And if this serves a purpose, this piece of paper, beyond just the initial packaging and shipment, you kind of have to fold it out of the way. Otherwise, it just, I don't know, gets in the way. I do like this outer style of carton because it's very easy to hold on to and not have to open a box. But they took away any kind of color indication on the back here. It seems like these palettes do have different colors. I like that there's a slight kind of wave pattern on here, which reminds you a little bit of what this palette is without having to open it. So I have been collecting Viseart for quite some time. I have a video on my channel of my Viseart collection as it was, I think probably years ago now. I don't even know if this is all gonna fit in frame. Nope, that's as far out as I have it. So I'll show you where we were prior to this. So I don't kind of begrudge them updating their packaging periodically. I think in some cases it's for the better. So these were more recent palettes. Again, they got rid of the kind of color indicators on the back, just have the shade names. But we had the same kind of slip packaging. And they might have repackaged the Cashmerie Charmeuse. It was a little difficult to see on the website. But you can see this one just opened from the bottom here. This one had more kind of an envelope style closure. And you would open it like so, and then this would flip open. There's a mirror, obviously, as you can see. And then there was this like plastic protector, which was very, I mean, relatively stable. Let's not kid ourselves. But it was relatively easy to hold on to, much easier than like a plastic slip or whatever. And very easy to remove and put back on as you wanted to. I think previously there might have been some way to kind of fold these up, but you know, I never really bothered to do that. So I could hold it kind of like that, looking into the mirror if I wanted to, and do my makeup that way. And this has a slight pattern to it. You can kind of see that on camera. It's very subtle. There is, I think, a slight shade difference. So I don't know if they just want things to be a little bit more kind of sophisticated looking. This is like a makeup artist's brand. This was the Violet Vespertine. So same basic format there. Prior to that, we were a little bit more colorful. So these are all like étendue size palettes. They have a few different size options. Like these are the petite size, and then their kind of original palettes were like so. So I personally kind of liked it when the outer packaging was a little bit more colorful. And you can see I cut this out of the box because at that time I wasn't necessarily holding on to all of the box. So I like having that kind of visual indicator on the packaging of what the shades were. So my ideal would be to have this kind of packaging on the outside, but in this kind of format where you can just pull it out like so, because these were just a little bit more difficult to get into, obviously. And some of these might have had plastic that I didn't hold on to. Yeah, as you can see, I'm often kind of sucked into the color story of Viseart palettes. So in addition to these 12 pan palettes, those are just empty palettes, I have these Petit Fours, which are the same size pan, but just 4, obviously, instead of 12. So you can see that comparison there. And these have a little plastic as well. I don't think these ever had mirrors, which for a quad, like, I don't mind. I guess I like having a mirror in a larger eyeshadow palette for travel, but realistically I have a desktop mirror that I use when I'm doing my makeup at home, so it's maybe not the biggest deal. Yeah, so they kind of changed how they were doing these. Like some of these older ones, you can see they do have, I guess, the combination that I was looking for, like with the shade colors on the back, this easy packaging, and then a little bit of a design, and then like so. So yeah, I'm sure there's either cost reasons for doing it the way they're doing it, or I don't know, just branding reasons. But that's my 2 cents regarding the packaging. I'm not in love personally with the change. As I said, these pans are removable. So in addition to kind of customizing or whatever, or just purchasing pans separately, you can still buy empty packaging. So this is like a little Petit Four empty palette where you can pop shades into that. And then I think this is still what they have for their, let me check actually. Okay, so just looking on their website, it looks like they now have an empty 12 well that looks to be the same as this, essentially. An empty 35 well, and then an empty 4 well. So it looks like they've redone all of their empty palettes, which is interesting. They used to have these palettes, again, kind of that envelope style with the mirror. Plastic, you could tear this off if you wanted to, but I found it easy enough to just kind of hold out of the way. And then it just had this open space. So I have a lot of the older Theory palettes in here, which have been discontinued. So interesting that they've done that. And I had purchased several of these. This is an older one that had some sun damage on it, which is why it's faded. I even took like a wet erase marker and designated which palette was in here. So, things change. Not always the way you want them to. But let's take a look at the actual swatches here. So I'll probably do these by row, I guess. It's gonna be easier if I put it that way. Yeah, so they are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, I'm gonna do them by row just to keep things easy. And they do have the shade description, and then they also have some suggested usage for each shade. So I'll let you know that as we go. So the first shade here is Sylph. It's a champagne rose with a metallic finish. Very pretty. So it says you can use this shade as an all-over lid color or layered over complementary tones for an elevated everyday look. Use this shade with a mixing medium for a wash of color or a foiled high shine effect. Pair with shades Serenade and Triton for a shimmering second skin sheen. Apply with fingertips or a dense brush for your desired level of intensity. So Serenade is the one right next to it, that matte shade. And Triton is that one right there, so more of a gold shade. And there are only 4 mattes in this palette. So I think my initial plan was to swatch the mattes separately. Maybe I'll just swatch them on the back of my hand so you can get an idea. But yeah, really pretty metallic sheen. Viseart's metallic or non-matte formula has improved over time. I will definitely give them that. One of their early like Paris Edit palettes was nothing to kind of write home about. So going into Serenade, this is a soft mid-tone neutral pink with a matte finish. It says the soft mid-tone shade can be used as an all-over lid color or as a base tone beneath complementary hues. It can also be used to highlight the brow bone and inner corners of the eyes, so if you have a deeper skin tone, I would say, or as a transitional shade in the socket of the eye, so that's probably how I would use it. Use as a base tone beneath shades Murmure and Mélusine for a glistening natural finish. Apply with a brush for your desired level of intensity. So that is Murmure, and that is Mélusine right next to it. So feels really nice. And next up we have Murmure. So this is a mid-tone nude rose with a matte finish. This mid-tone nude rose shade can be used as an all-over lid color beneath complementary tones for increased depth and saturation, or as a transitional tone in the crease and socket. Mix this hue with other matte shades to create 12 new colors. Okay. Can also be worn as a blush on light to medium complexions, which is really interesting. Pair with Sylph and Mélusine for a soft and shimmering romantic nude rose look. Apply with a brush for your desired level of intensity. So again, we have the first shade here is Sylph, and Mélusine is number 4. So yeah, I think each of these rows could very easily make a beautiful eye look. So that is Murmure. It is pretty. It would definitely be more of a nude blush, I would say. And it looks like there's a slight sheen to it. I am cleaning off my my fingers here on a makeup eraser. All right, and then finally we have Mélusine. So this one, it says a mid-tone sandy nude with blue-green duochromatic flecks. This duochromatic sandy nude shade can be worn as an all-over lid color or layered over complementary tones for an unexpected duochromatic shine. Use this shade with a mixing medium for a wash of color or a foiled high shine effect. Pair with shades Oceanic and Glinting for an alluring aquatic finish. Apply with fingertips or a dense brush for your desired level of intensity. So this one is Oceanic, so that more teal glittery shade, and Glinting is this one down here. So that is Mélusine. And I looked it up, and I think Mélusine it's like a French freshwater mermaid is what I'll go with. So very interesting shade names they come up with. Next we have Ethos, which is a light muted neutral pink peach with a matte finish. It says this shade can be used again as an all-over lid color or as a base tone beneath complementary hues. And this is the kind of shade I would put all over my lid to kind of start things off with. It can also be used to highlight the brow bone and inner corners of the eyes, or as a transitional shade in the socket of the eye. Use as a base tone beneath shades Sylph and Glinting for a luminous, shimmering glow. Apply with a brush for your desired level of intensity. So Sylph, again, is that one right here, and Glinting is that one right here. So that would be a very kind of neutral, everyday look. So one thing I like about this color story is that although you can create drama, like we do have a lot of depth here, they also gave us some lighter and mid-tone shades for more everyday looks. We could have included a deeper matte, but we'll see, I guess, when we get to those shades how they look. Okay, so next up we have Luminary, which is a nude quartz with a metallic finish. And again, this one can be used as an all-over base color, layered over complementary tones for a burst of high shine shimmer, or used as a liner for smoky, subtle definition. Pairs perfectly with shades Glinting and Brine for a shimmering, gray, soft, smoky eye. So Glinting again, and Brine is that one? That one looks a little brown, so I'm not quite sure about that. Apply with fingertips or a dense brush for your desired level of intensity, or use with a mixing medium for a foiled effect. I don't know if I have a mixing medium currently, but yeah, that's really pretty. No complaints. I'll probably try to lean into the teal duochrome shades a little bit more for my demo, but yeah, some really beautiful neutrals as well. Okay, so Triton. So this one, it says Second Skin Nude, topper with silver duochromatic flecks. So it says the Second Skin Nude topper can be worn as an all-over lid color for a natural veil of luminosity, or over any shade in the palette for a radiant wash of reflectivity. It can also be used to highlight the brow bone, inner corners of the eyes, cheekbones, and the bridge of the nose. Pairs perfectly over top of Serenade, Murmure, and Ethos for a burst of shimmering brilliance. So that would be this one, Serenade, Murmure, and Ethos. So yeah, very, very kind of neutral, peachy eye there. I like that they tell you it's supposed to be more of a topper shade. That's not the most kind of toppery topper I've ever seen. It has a little bit more kind of base pigment to it. I like it when brands like Natasha Denona have specific formulations that they call things. It just kind of helps you, it helps with your expectations in terms of what you're getting. Okay, and then finally for this row, Oceanic is a rich navy blue-green with blue duochromatic flecks. So this one, it says this rich navy blue-green shade can be worn alone for a striking monochromatic look, or layered on top of complementary tones for a high shine shift of shimmering pigment. Can also be used to build out the outer crease of the eye, which is probably how I'll use it, as a liner or in conjunction with a mixing medium for a foiled effect. Pair with shades Mélusine and Glinting for a tidal wave of prismatic pigment. And again, it says apply with your fingertips or a dense brush for your desired level of intensity. So Mélusine right there in the corner, and then Glinting down here in this corner. So yeah, I wouldn't say that one is the most impressive. It's a little bit more of a subtle kind of reflect. It's not matte, but it's not quite as like foiled or glittery. So yeah, so that's something I could definitely put in the outer corner to build depth. I guess since we don't have any deeper matte shades, it's a good thing that that shade can be used in that way. Like, it doesn't read too kind of blue or green on my arm. Like, it does have a little bit of that, but we'll see how it looks on the eyes. Okay, so finally the last row here, Glinting is a nude silver with a metallic finish. That one's really beautiful. This nude silver metallic can be used as an all-over base color layered over complementary tones for a burst of high shine shimmer, or used as a liner for luminous definition. Pairs perfectly with shades Siren and Abyss. So those two, I guess, for Oceanic crystalline candescence. Apply with fingertips or a dense brush for your desired level of intensity, or use with a mixing medium for a foiled effect. I might have to pick up a mixing medium. Okay, so that one's really pretty as well. Those two would be really nice together, I think. All right, so this one is interesting. I think it says Siren on the listing. It says Sirenian, maybe, on the packaging, so I don't really know there. But Siren is a violet blue with turquoise duochromatic flecks. It says this bright violet blue duochromatic shade can be used as an all-over lid color or layered on top of complementary tones for a high shine sheen. Up the ante by mixing the shade with a mixing medium for an ultra-saturated foiled flip. Apply with fingertips or a dense brush for your desired level of intensity. Can also be used as a liner. Pair with shades Oceanic and Mélusine for hypnotic tides of luminosity. I do appreciate their copy, but could do with a little bit of proofreading. Okay, so Oceanic and Mélusine. So Mélusine, that one in the corner there, and Oceanic is that deeper shade like we talked about. So pretty duochrome, not the most unusual, but it's pretty. So going into Abyss next. This is a mid-tone grayish purple with a matte finish. This mid-tone shade can be used as an all-over lid color or as a transitional shade to build out the crease and socket, as a soft liner, or as a base tone beneath complementary tones for increased depth and saturation. Mix this hue with any of the other matte shades to create 12 new hues. Yeah, I don't know about that. Pairs perfectly with Luminary and Brine to channel the lure of the deep sea. Apply with a brush for your desired level of intensity. So Luminary and Brine, that one, the deeper brown is Brine, and Luminary is that kind of taupey shade. So really, if you take away like a couple of these shades, like those two, you end up with something a lot more neutral than you might think. So that has a decent level of depth. Like for me, that's probably fine, but depending on your skin tone, it might not be quite enough. But like I said, because we have this ability to swap things out of these palettes really easily, I'm pretty sure they have a black shade in our lineup if you needed that. All right, and finally we have Brine, which is a bitter brown quartz with copper reflectivity and a metallic finish. It says use this bitter brown quartz metallic shade to create depth and dimension in the crease, socket, and lash line. Build up the color in the outer corners of the eyes for a boldly pigmented finish, or use a mixing medium and liner brush for a graphic finish. Pairs perfectly with Abyss and Luminary for a richly pigmented smoky siren sheen. Use with a brush to achieve your desired level of intensity. So Abyss, that one right there, and Luminary, that one right there. I haven't cross-referenced, I guess, all the different suggestions to see how much overlap and how many different looks they suggest. But let me show you the full arm. Okay, so that is the entire palette there, kind of at a glance. And then I'll do a little bit of close-up footage. All right, so as promised, I'm just going to swatch the formats. So that's your kind of range in terms of building up matte shades. And like I said, for my skin tone, that's probably fine. Yeah, I'd say, I'm pretty sure there's a little bit of a sheen to that one shade. Do you see that? It doesn't look quite as flat. And I think that's the one they suggested that you could use as a blush. The only thing with that is I would suggest taking the pan out of the palette so you don't risk getting, I guess, any additional shimmer that you might not want onto your cheeks. Just to show you like one of the smaller brushes that I have for blush. So this is the Refer number 4 brush. It's a pretty kind of standard angled brush shape. And yeah, I'd say you can probably get a brush like this size in there. So maybe I'll try that. Again, I would suggest taking the pan out of the palette. Even doing that though, I think I would probably recommend maybe tapping it onto your hand after you pick it up, just to try and kind of distribute the product and get it as evenly onto your brush as possible. Obviously these are all dirty. So yeah, so that's where we are with the swatches. I also wanted to compare it to, this is the London Etoile. I think the Paris Etoile is the one that maybe reminded me the most of this color story. I'm not sure if this one is still in stock. This one had a lot more, even for an 8-pan palette, a lot more kind of teal and purple in it, with just a few neutrals. So I'm pretty sure I have a video on my channel with this palette if you wanted to check that out. I'm not sure if it's still available or not, the palette. I think I wet my brush to use it as a liner in a couple spots, so that's why there's a little bit of a mark on those. But yeah, it was a pretty little color story. So this is what I was talking about, they're petites. And even these pans were removable, so I do appreciate that. And yeah, that's what the back looks like. Okay, so I'm actually filming this part of the video a few days later. It was bothering me a little bit as I was editing that it didn't do more of a dedicated comparison between the Sireneuse and the Cashmerie Charmeuse, which to me were the two most similar, at least from what is currently available on the website. So I did something similar to what I've done with the Natasha Denona palettes, and that is to obviously take them out of their packaging, and then I just wrote what the palette and the shade name is on the back so I can kind of keep track of them, because otherwise they're just plain metal. Interestingly, this metal from the Cashmerie Charmeuse seems to be a little bit of a different finish than the Sireneuse. So I've said before, like I just use a regular Sharpie thin marker to write on the back, and normally you can just erase whatever you've written with like an alcohol wipe. With this one, I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but it didn't remove quite as easily. It seemed to have more of a matte finish than like a shinier finish. So I just wanted to note that before I went in. And I'm going to take away these paper towels I used because I feel like the white kind of distorts the ISO, so the color that you guys are seeing. So yeah, so this is what they look like out of the packaging on a neutral background. They're not identical. Like this one I think is a little bit more neutral, the Sireneuse. This one has a few more kind of mauvier tones, and this one you can tell there's a little bit of an imprint from the paper towel. So if that bothers you, just know that. This one, the Cashmerie, has more mattes to it, as you can see. So there's 6 mattes, a good range of shades there. This one, as we've discussed, only has the 4 mattes, which could be a good or a bad thing depending on your preference. If you already have like some of the matte palettes from Viseart, you might be okay with that because you can always rearrange or mix and match. I did want to take a look at these more like colorful teal shades, and I think this one is a duochrome as well. And then these are kind of the more neutral shimmers here. So sometimes when the tone changes but the depth doesn't, it's a little bit more difficult. But yeah, I wanted to kind of swatch these to find as many similarities as possible. Like I said, this one has a few more mauve tones. I feel like I'm playing, I don't know, dominoes or something. And then This one's a little bit more taupey. So yeah, those are kind of the shades that call out to me as being kind of equivalent. So I'll start off by swatching the mattes. So those are the Sireneuse mattes. Right there. And I'm just cleaning my fingers off with a damp makeup eraser here, so. It is a little bit more difficult to swatch this way, but. So that one is definitely deeper. That one's kind of similar. The swatch pictures that Viseart had on their website, it made the Cashmerie overall look quite a bit deeper. So I'd say if you do have a darker skin tone, the Cashmerie might be a better bet for you. This one right here. So yeah, that one's a touch darker, maybe a little bit warmer as well. So I don't think any of these are the same. These two shades here, I think, are kind of similar to this one, but again, I don't think they're quite identical. So obviously I wasn't batting 1,000 last night because I forgot to swatch one of the matte shades of the Cashmerie Charmeuse palette. So I decided just to swatch the mattes of both palettes again, just so you have an actual comparison of all the mattes. So I think the next to last on the Cashmerie side that I'm about to swatch, I think that was the one I forgot to swatch. I'm not doing it in the same order, obviously, or they're in the palette still, so it's a little bit difficult to say. But I think the shade I missed in the Cashmerie palette might be a little bit closer to the darker shade in the Sireneuse. Alright, so let's look at these mauvier tones. So this one, like so. I haven't yet done the demo as I'm filming this. I already had the, I'm gonna swap those, I think, the camera set up, so I wanted to take advantage. That one has a little bit of a duochrome, that middle one. So those are, probably could have moved that one down a bit, but those are the kind of rosier tones, and like those two especially, let me swatch those on my hand. That's a Sireneuse, and put these two. So yeah, so not identical, similar, but not identical. And then I'll do these four. I feel like I'm playing Twister here. Okay. So those are the more neutral metallics. And I'm just gonna move down a tiny bit on my arm. And then these two. That one has a little bit of kind of a blue-green flip to it. That's a little bit more of a yellow. almost sage, really. So those two right there, I'd probably say are the closest out of all of them. So that would be this one and this one. Again, very similar. One is a little bit more brown and one is a slight bit more kind of sage green. And then finally we have these more duochrome shades. So I'm gonna, I think, just remove everything on my hand. So I know some of the kind of limited edition palettes that Viseart released over, I want to say around the Black Friday weekend last year, they were repeat shades, kind of recycled shades from previous palettes. I don't think that's what happened with the SIRENEUSE palette, but I think with any brand, after you release a set number or a certain number of palettes, you can start to see some similar color stories anyway. And then this one, the teal shade down here. That one's almost a combination of those two. You can see it has that duochrome effect. Let's see what happens if I just pick some of this up. Similar, but not identical. So I hope that satisfied anyone else who was curious about the differences between these two palettes. I certainly was curious, so I kind of wanted to see for myself. Like, they both have those kind of more neutral, muted color stories with a couple of, I guess, more interesting pop shades, but like I said, they're not identical. So I think it just kind of comes down to like how much of a collector you are and whether you think you'll appreciate those differences. Sometimes it's just about getting the right kind of combination of shades, whether it's the mix between mattes and shimmers or just the range and the depth. So anyway, so I'll throw you back into the video here, but again, let me know if you have any questions about any of the Viseart palettes. So I think that's kind of the long and short of what I wanted to cover in this portion. Let me know if you have any specific shade comparison requests, because as you saw, I have quite a few Viseart palettes. So if you want any dedicated comparisons, just let me know and I can put that up on Instagram or my YouTube community page. But even just looking at this as a color story on its own, I think it's really pretty, and you might get more use out of it than you think. So with all that being said, let's head into the demo. All right, so I did my base quite a while ago now, a few hours ago, and I did kind of lay my head down a little bit on the couch. So it wasn't like a full face. It was very light, but in any case, that's what we're dealing with. And I didn't do anything to my eyes, so I'm going to start off using the Fenty Eye Primer. We'll have everything linked down below. A lot of times I'll start off with the Fenty Eye Primer and then set it with the Charlotte Tilbury powder. Depending on what shades are in the palette, if there is a lighter shade that I can use to set a lighter eyeshadow, then I will often use that. So I thought I would stick with that for this video. And before I forget, I did want to mention, because I made a big deal out of it in the swatch portion, this eyeshadow part with the actual pans does detach from the outer case. I was worried I just shoved my my nails into it. So that's what it looks like just by itself. And then that is what the base looks like. So you could, in theory, just pull this out without having to tear it. Still not my favorite, but depending on your preferences and how you like to use eyeshadow, a little bit more wearable anyway. So I'm gonna go in with that light matte shade at first. Grab my Sigma switch here. I think since I filmed that swatch portion, because it's been a couple weeks now at this point, I did purchase the Paris, is it Reveries palette? Yeah, I think Reveries Etendue palette is what it's called. So basically I picked up this palette and this little praline Epicé, maybe, and some of these empty palettes, because I wanted to recreate the palettes they did for Black Friday that sold out, and those are just combinations of existing shades. So I did pick up the empty 12 pan, the praline Epicé, like I said, Paris Reveries. This is what the empty 4 pan looks like in the new version. So similar kind of style, and yeah, that detaches as well. I don't know, it doesn't look bad, I just don't know that it's my preference. And these are what the new 1.5 gram palettes look like. So this is a mini from the Neutral Mattes palette in the Etendue size, and then this one was Cool Mattes Sand. So it looks good. I don't think it looks bad. It's just, you know, different people have different preferences, I guess. Okay, so going back in with the Sigma E50, a large fluff brush to set that primer. It's a pretty good all over shade for me anyway. On certain skin tones, you could probably use it as a highlighting shade. And then using my Sonia G Classic Crease, I'm going to go into that shade right there. The kind of foundation look that I'm doing here is probably going to be pretty similar to the very wearable look I filmed, which I guess I'll just insert. I didn't talk through it, so I don't know if I'll do a voiceover or what, but yeah, the kind of foundational matte shades are going to be kind of similar. And there's a couple sales that I wanted to mention, so I'm going to take the Sonia G Mini Booster in that darker brown shade. So Viseart is having, I think, a 30% off sale right now, so if you had your eye on any Viseart palettes, I would definitely recommend checking it out. Depending on whether you want multiple Viseart products or just one, it may be more cost effective to purchase from Beautylish. So if you're interested in multiple Viseart palettes, I think their free shipping is $75. So just going back in with that shade right here with the Classic Crease to blend. So if you're thinking about multiple palettes from Viseart, I think the Viseart sale will be your best bet. If you only want maybe one palette, or maybe one palette is in stock or out of stock at Viseart, for example, Beautylish is currently doing their gift card event, which in my opinion is not the best retailer sale. Basically, you get a $20 gift card for every $100 you spend. Going back into that shade with this little flat definer brush from Sonia G. So it's not as good as getting 20% off, even if you manage to hit like $100 dead on. But Beautylish does sell some brands that you can't buy easily from other retailers. So in that case, it is a good time to purchase those items and those brands from Beautylish, and if you are purchasing over $100, at least you get something back. I'm going to go into this teal shade right there. So yeah, I'm gonna lean into a little bit more of a colorful look since I did a more neutral look the other day. So Beautylish does sell Viseart, and I did see a few people recommend this palette in their recommendation videos. Again, I would say it really just depends kind of what else you are interested in buying. So this is relatively dark for me, this shade. I'm trying to get like the overall placement and shape down, and then I'll blend with my Sonia G brush. So yeah, like I was saying, Sonia G is a brush where you can pretty much only buy from Beautylish. So I'm not applying any extra product. I just want to see how this blends out. There is a little bit of fallout there, if you can see. So yeah, so if you have been interested in any like Sonia G brushes or Wayne Goss, I would say now is definitely the time. I believe they do a gift card event in the fall as well. I'd actually picked up this, this was part of this Sky Eye set, which I'm not sure if that's in stock or not, but I pretty much use these brushes whenever I do my makeup. I don't use all of the brushes in the set. I really only use the Classic Crease, the Mini Booster, and the Flat Definer. The other two, I think, I don't really get a lot of use out of. They're not bad brushes by any means, but I guess I just have other brushes I enjoy using in lieu of those. But yeah, Beautylish is definitely a great place to shop for brushes. I'm going to see how this kind of duochrome shade does on a dry Refer 28. This one does pick up a bit. Yeah, so Refer would be my second choice, or I guess secondary recommendation for especially natural hair brushes, and then I really enjoy BK as well. But they each have kind of their own sites and their own deals and that kind of thing. All right, so definitely got a lot of fallout from that shade. I thought about doing my eye makeup first, but sometimes just to make things easy for filming is just not ideal. I think I actually want to try, so I picked up the Mehron mixing liquid, and how do I want to do this? I think this is more of a pro product. Okay, so I just grabbed a ramekin, just a normal porcelain ramekin from the kitchen, and ideally I might have something smaller, so I just poured a little bit of that in there. If this were a little bit thicker, I would probably just do it on a palette, like my just kind of stainless steel palette here. But because it is fairly liquidy, I don't want to make a mess. Okay, so I think this is the brush I was using before. I'm just going to try to pick up some of this on my brush. Obviously, I guess, easier way to do this, I'm trying to show you what I'm doing here. Just trying to kind of mix in a little bit here. An easier way to do this would be to just spray your brush. That's probably what I would recommend, really. But because they specifically mentioned a mixing medium, I just kind of wanted to see what would happen. So I think that definitely intensifies things, and I am not by any means a makeup artist or really well versed in makeup artist techniques. You can, I think, wet your brush a little bit with the mixing medium and then pick up some of the pigment. I think that will give you a little bit more of a dynamic kind of foiled look. I'm not really doing a wear test or anything today. I think there's a recurring debate as to whether you should pick up the pigment and then apply any kind of mixing medium, to try and kind of intensify the color, or whether that risks kind of hard pan and that kind of thing. I'm gonna go in with that kind of cream shade again on my closet crease. I would just say pay attention to how a brand suggests that you use a product. Like if they say you can use it wet or dry. I seem to remember Wayne Goss saying that you shouldn't use his eyeshadows wet, at least his older formula, but I could be misremembering. Yeah, so I would definitely pay attention to that. And I guess just figure out how concerned you might be. So I think this side, I just need to match the shape a little bit more. I like creating this kind of outer V shape. And then once that is mostly in place, I'll go in with my brush to kind of soften it. So yeah, Viseart mattes are really great, and if you stick to lighter colors or more neutral colors, you can, I think, fairly easily create a work appropriate look without like too much headache. I mean, there are certain brands or palettes I don't really reach for unless I know I have the time to kind of finesse how things are looking. So like this side, for example, I have some micellar water. If I just want to kind of sharpen up the edges or clean up anything, I'll just take one of these cotton buds. They have a little bit more of a point to them. And just try to clean that up. So yeah, so that's a case for doing your eye makeup first as well, because then you can take your concealer to try to clean up what you want. It's kind of a fine line for me between making things look well blended, but still in the place that I want them to be, so that they have a shape, but it's not all over. So now that that is done, that is a pretty, I think, dynamic look by itself, but I'm gonna take this shade up here on my ring finger and just maybe give it a little bit more dimension. I don't know that this does the most. Lightens it up a tad, I think. So that's where we are with this palette. I'll go ahead and give you, I guess, my thoughts as I am reassembling this palette and applying my liner and mascara. I will say generally I'm a fan of Viseart. As you saw, I have quite a few of their palettes. I've just purchased more. I feel like I'm kind of invested in their brand in a way. So especially when they have one of their sales, I think it's definitely taking a look and deciding whether you want to pick anything up, if there's been anything that's been kind of on your radar. So going in with the Lisa Eldridge Pencil and Cinder Smoke. So I will say there is definitely some fallout. So if you are going for a more dramatic look, you probably want to do your eyes first. So I like this palette. I don't think it's my new favorite. I think the things that are going for this palette, especially given the sale, are the price point, the quality of the mattes. I think, as I said earlier, Viseart's mattes have always kind of been their claim to fame, if you will. And they are really nice kind of basics that you can reach for to fill in any gaps in other palettes, like their neutral mattes, for example. So that's part of it. Also the fact that all of their palettes now, I think, are depotable and interchangeable. So you can just take what you want and combine it with your favorite shades from other palettes. So that makes it good for travel. I think generally these are pretty travel friendly. They're lightweight, they're magnetic. There's no mirror now, so you don't have to worry about that breaking. And like I said, they're kind of great for filling in any gaps or creating your perfect palette on the go. And I think this particular palette, even if you do keep it in its current form, it is pretty versatile. So you have the ability, I'm just gonna go in with that lighter duochrome shade up here on this rougher 23. Just give the inner corner just a little bit more. Yeah, so it's pretty versatile. You can get a more dramatic look like this one. You can also get something a little bit more subtle. If you have purchased a lot of the recent Viseart palettes, like the Cashmerie or the Cashmerie Charmeuse, or a lot of the Petit Fours, I don't know if it'll add a lot that's unique to your collection, but I think it's also a very solid buy. Again, depending on your preferences and what you already have. So unfortunately, I don't know when the sale will be over. Viseart isn't always the best about telling us that kind of thing. I believe the gift card event is only through Monday, maybe? So yes, I'm gonna keep the rest of the makeup pretty subtle. I just wanted to be able to show you what this palette looks like on the eyelids. So that's going to do it for this Viseart SIRENEUSE palette. Let me know if you're interested in picking this palette up, if you've tried Viseart before, or if it's an entirely new brand to you. And until next time, I hope you guys are all doing well and staying safe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.